Welcome to Dirk Island. This is the weekend show where we watch documentaries. This week we watched Behind the Curve, a documentary about flat earthers that's available on Netflix. It gives a portrayal of some of the prominent flat earthers and also responses from physicists. Behind the Curve, I'll just kind of describe it briefly. It follows the one of the main celebrities inside of the flat earth community, which is apparently a real community. It's been debated a bit whether or not this is just some giant organized trolling effort or whether or not people actually believe the earth is flat. But it appears they do believe the earth is flat, and one of the main guys who is helped kind of put out flat earth and the reasons that people believe this is a guy named Mark Sargent. He has some YouTube videos. I believe the most popular one has about 1 million views. So it's not like huge YouTube wise, but pretty big to the point where they can have a conference, they can have meetups, they can have lots of people come and people can be like, oh my god, it's Mark Sargent. And then there's another guy who now like thinks that Mark Sargent is a plant from the CIA because he was the original flat earther, and now Mark Sargent has kind of co-opted the movement, and I have no idea what's going on there, but it's pretty funny because it's like all revolutions that once they start rebelling, all the revolutionaries can't fucking get together and agree on what's going on as far as the mentality. It's just an endless descent into chaos because no one had any plan on governing. They just had a plan on being anti. It really gets you into the flat earth world in a very respectful way, I felt, and there is the obligatory scientific counterbalancing that's coming in as to kind of analyzing why people are believing this. And what's more interesting to me is even just seeing like, well, there's some people who believe this about the flat earth, and there's some people who believe this. Some people believe we're in a snow globe dome. Some people believe we don't know, it's just up. And some people believe there's an ice wall and that's it. Some people believe there's something behind the ice wall that they're keeping from us. You know, it's just like hilariously endless variants. It is really great how, for the average person, you're like, what? There are flat earthers that are existing in 2019, and not only is there a significant flat earth community, but they have infighting amongst themselves as to what is the nature of the translucent dome that encapsulates us like a snow globe. Which is so great. And then also you have, as you mentioned, the element of the original flat earth guy now thinks that the prominent flat earth guy is a shill, which is exactly how the whole flat earth community feels about us NASA believing people, which I also realize they've got to be against. Every 3D or circular representation of the earth, you know, is a composite, but is based on real images, and they think that's faked by NASA. So NASA's on the list. They've got to add planet Earth and our planet, which has circular shots of the Earth. The Apple screensaver is obviously now part of the conspiracy because there's certain global shots of the Earth in the Apple TV screensavers. So it's kind of just funny without even directly critiquing or making fun of flat eartherism. They kind of just reveal themselves by their infighting.
I just want to cut to the chase because it's really hard at first to believe that anyone can believe the flat earth. People actually believe what they believe. It's very difficult to understand if you think the earth is round that anyone actually believes that it's flat, considering that that's what everyone believed until about 450 years ago, and when they discovered that it was not true and that just didn't make any sense. And that was kind of like a settled issue, but flat earthers, they kind of think that the settled issue is now an indoctrination that they're breaking from. And what this really is, it just seems like it's a religion. It's just a new religion. I say that because it's really easy to go, oh, these guys are just so stupid. They are against evidence. They see that the gyroscope is moving by 15 degrees. They see that their little experiment with the plane is they're not getting the right results. All the results suggest this, but they're immune from facts. It's like, well, what about all those people who say that evolution isn't real? What about all those people who say that the earth is 6,000 years old? What about those people who say that, let's be real, that say that a guy 2,000 years ago died and rose from the dead? You're going to call them fucking just a bunch of idiots who are against evidence? So here's the deal, okay? It's just a religion.
It's just a religion. It's a new little religion that's cropping up of people who believe a certain thing about the world. It gives them a sense of meaning. It's a hopeful conspiracy in a way. It draws in a lot of people who believe that there's a they out there who's against them. What a lot of religions do in their early days too. They find something else. Someone's against us. We got to band together. We've got a central set of beliefs. And then there's factions, because religions often factionalize also, because they're always, oh no, I know the truth. No, I know the truth. Oh, we all get to make up the truth so that I know what it is, because we're not actually going on evidence. We're going on what we think it might be, and we're very anti what things are. That's how I kind of understand this whole thing. That's what I think is charitable here. I think it's not so fair to criticize them. I mean, that's another thing that I think is so crazy. It's also very falsifiable based on like what you would think the evidence is. It's pretty easy to falsify some of the flat earth stuff. So let's take one for example. Mark Sargent video. We looked this up when we were watching it. Mark Sargent starts off his video. He's got these videos like flat earth clues, facts, whatever. One of the things that he's going to present to you pretty early on in the video is like, on a flat earth, right, it's like the UN symbol where the Arctic Circle is in the center. All the countries come out from there, and then Antarctica, instead of being like on a globe, if you draw it flat, Antarctica is like an ice wall around the edge, right? And a lot of the flat earthers use that symbol as their actual model for the world, that the Antarctica itself is like an ice wall, like Game of Thrones style, and there's nothing beyond it, or what's beyond it we're not allowed to know, whatever it is. So they actually use that model, but on that model, one of the things that Mark Sargent says to prove that flat earth is true is you try to buy a flight from South America to Africa, and you're going to find crazy routes.
Number 3. The commercial air travel routes for the southern hemisphere are wrong. This is an easy thing you can check out in 60 seconds. Find your favorite travel site and try to get there non-stop. See what happens.
He's got this thing where he says, I used to travel business all the time, and I've never seen anything like it.
I used to business travel for years, and I've never seen anything like it.
And it's like, and these routes that are going from South America all the way up to Europe, and then over to the Middle East, and then down to Africa.
The routes start turning ridiculous.
It's like, dude, that's because of hubs. That's because, like, that's how planes work. Like, you go up, and by the way, you can find flights from fucking, what is it? You can find flights from Santiago, Chile to Australia and to New Zealand, which on a flat earth would be impossible routes by things. You can find Johannesburg
we should maybe even show it, because if you look at the flat earth map he has going from South America, from Chile to Australia, it would be you would have to fly over the North Pole and then across the entire planet.
And you could obviously,
It's the one thing in the general public world they can't hide. The actual distance between these two places. On a round world, the flight is easy, just a straight shot across an ocean. But on a flat world, it becomes the greatest distance between 2 points. There are no shortcuts, so they distract you with multiple connections and layovers.
and you could obviously not do it in the amount of hours, 15 or whatever you can do that flight in, or less.
And then you look at the flight tracker and see it definitely crossing the globe.
While we were watching this documentary, we literally pulled up the flight tracker, and maybe it's because of the time of day we watch it, where there actually are these flights running, and they're in the middle of the Southern Pacific. There are only a few flights, but that's because there are only a few major cities in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's not that lucrative to link Johannesburg to Australia or South America, or somewhere in South America to Australia and New Zealand. There's only like 4 major cities in the like deep Southern Hemisphere where it's not cost effective to make someone hub through a different airport, because that's how airlines work. They park their planes somewhere. They fly constantly from a route, and then they connect you through certain hubs through another route. It's economics. It's not about the fastest way to a location. If there is demand for a fast location from Melbourne, Australia to Santiago, Chile, or whatever, they will make that route. But it probably runs less often. I hate to say this, but
It's so easily falsifiable that you wonder how anyone was convinced by what he says in the video, where he's saying, I used to try to find, just try it. He challenges people, just try to find it. So we instantly try to find it and then find routes, and we're like, well, he's obviously lying right now. I don't understand why anyone would believe this, but I don't know if he tried it at the time of the day, or he's intentionally lying, or what's happening. And it's just hard to understand how people are believing something that's so obviously falsifiable so easily. They're obviously not looking up the routes, or they don't know about, how routes work or any of that stuff. It's like so foreign as a thing, so they're willing to believe nonsense. Like his little thing, I traveled business all the time and I'd never seen anything like it. It's like, well, then you didn't. Because, that is how all routes work. What are you talking about? You can, if I look for a flight right now, we're in Los Angeles, and let's say I wanted to go to India or something. I will probably fly more west to get to the Far East, over the date line that way. But it's possible that I might fly a, United Arab Emirates or Qatar Airlines flight, right? Where would I go if I fly one of those? Because those are big airlines, or a Turkish Air flight. If any of those people wanted to sell me a ticket because they want my business, they don't want to give the business to a China Eastern or whatever flight might hub me through Los Angeles, how am I going to get to India, right? I got to probably go through China, or I got to probably go on the Europe route, right? I got to go on one of those routes, and I'm going to go through a hub. It's just how it works. And companies don't just run flights anywhere. It's like, if I take Turkish Airlines, I'm going to go from Los Angeles to Istanbul, and from Istanbul to Delhi or Mumbai. That's how I'm getting to India. That's it. If I'm taking Air Emirates, I'm going to go from Los Angeles to Dubai, and from Dubai to India. That's how it works. If I'm going on Qatar Airlines, I'm going to go from Los Angeles to Qatar, or from Doha, Qatar, I'm going to go from Doha, Qatar to India. And if I take China Eastern, I'm going to go through Shanghai. And if I take Qantas, I'm going to go through somewhere in Australia. It's like, that's how airlines work. It is very easily falsifiable, and it's weird that for whatever reason, the people are being convinced by this.
Yeah, it gets to this paradox of flat earthers, which I think this documentary does a good job of showing, which is they're both simultaneously curious enough to ask questions and do their own little mini investigations and experiments, but then they totally lack the critical thinking, skill or will to be critically thinking, to evaluate the evidence correctly, or accept any evidence that just flies directly in the face of their flat earth theory, which leads to two of my favorite parts of this whole movie. I mean, one is there's this the gyroscope. It's this device, I don't know much about it, but the flat earther is describing, if you have a gyroscope and you take it on the ocean, you would, if the Earth was truly round, it would detect a 15-degree drift, which represents a 360 degrees every 24 hours. So if you do it for, I think, an hour, it's 15-degree drift if the Earth were truly spinning and circular. So they don't have the money for this, and finally some donor is generous enough to donate the 20 grand that it takes to get this gyroscope, this super high-tech instrument. They go and run it, and it's crazy because they start picking up this weird 15-degree error. I don't know what it is. And so they're like, okay, it must be that it's picking up the heavenly energies of the dome above us, of the snow globe we're in, drifting. So let's put it inside a graphite container. They put it in a container, still shows the drift. And it's really hilarious to just watch that they have the will to get the resources, to get the device and run the experiment. But then when they see the evidence that's just directly disproving or directly supporting the counter argument to what they believe, they're like, it's a flaw. It's always got to be a flaw in the experiment. It can never be evidence to the counter, which runs to kind of the critical error and why you almost don't believe these are some sort of weird trolls that aren't real people, because it's like they purport themselves as question askers and want to challenge the status quo and not be indoctrinated, but then there doesn't seem to be any evidence good enough to factor into their argument.
Yeah, it's extremely strange how so many people say they're convinced by the Mark Sargent videos, it's weird because you can be convinced, I guess, if you actually didn't take him up on investigating any of his claims. It's weird because, like, I love conspiracy theories. I think you do too. I watch a ton of documentaries. I love that people are out there questioning everything, and there are real conspiracies out there. There are real conspiracies. There are plans, what is it, Operation Northwoods. There is the Tuskegee syphilis experiments. There are real conspiracies out there. There's just so much to be learned. What's happening at Area 51? What happened at Roswell? What's happening with the U.S. or at any point in time? Why did the U.S. ship and the Russian ship just get really close to each other? They're not going to tell us. Like, there's something going on there. We don't get to know all the time. So it causes all this doubt. And there are real conspiracies, groups of people acting in concert to do things. That's an actual term, a conspiracy, right? There are real conspiracies. It is a fun genre sometimes. And so I think a lot of the people who are in the flat earth world, I think, it's like I get them a lot of the time. I get what's going on, like why they're questioning a lot of things. I just think that it's a bit like a religion where there's something about flat earth, unlike all the other conspiracies, where you get to have certain favorable outcomes as to how you look at the world. Like, you get to celebrate the optimism of being like in the center of the universe almost again. You get to celebrate it's more of an optimistic conspiracy than all the others, and that's what actually comes through with this documentary. So I understand it's likable, but it's kind of like you just discovered a religion. Like, that is what religions have offered. That's what they always offer. The idea that Jesus, he came to the Americas, the pre-Columbian Americas, and he spread the gospel. It's called the Mormon religion, okay? You can believe things that you can't find in the archaeological record. You're allowed to do so. You can believe things that, you're not going to be able to necessarily find the bones to back up your theory about Jesus and the tribes in America. But plenty of people like to do that. They believe it for many reasons. And if the flat earthers want to believe in the flat earth for all the reasons that they like about it, it's okay. It's more of a religion. It's not. They're not. It's tough when it's very easily falsifiable, like the plane flights thing. That just comes out at me because as we were watching it, we were able to be like, I don't understand what is happening right now. Is this a joke? Because you're thinking it's not a joke, and then you get back and you're going, wait, the facts, like literally, he told us to do something, and immediately when you do it, you see that what he said is not right. So I don't get it. I do not get what's happening here. But obviously, it's like a lot of things. People oftentimes, it's like Bernie Madoff, right? One of the things he did when the SEC was in his office, and they were going to get him maybe years before he was actually caught. He's like, here's my trading number.
The guy's asking for our DTC account number. What are we going to do?
And he gave it to the SEC guy. He's like, yeah, go check it out. And he sweat. He sweat over the weekend.
One call. All the SEC had to do was make one call, and they would have seen that everything was fake, that there was nothing there.
You wait, knowing what they will find if they make that call. I can't imagine what that was like.
It was excruciatingly difficult.
He's wondering, okay, the guy, like, he had just done the full interview. He's like, oh, can I have your number? And he's like, okay, here it is. And so he was sweating because he knew that the guy, if he had just typed the number in, he would have realized that all the trades are fake. They didn't happen. You would have looked, you would have seen, you didn't see the trading activity that I was telling you about, that I'm putting on the reports, whatever, wasn't there. But the guy never put the number in and never verified.
And we haven't met before, but I have very strong relationships. And I was on the short list for SEC director.
By the way, are these securities with the DTC?
Of course.
We're going to need your account number just so we can verify the assets.
646. 646.
Sometimes when you act like, oh yeah, no, check, call the references, they'll tell you I'm a good guy. People go, oh, you're so confident you would tell me to call the references? I don't have to do that. It's like, that is a move. Okay, so anyway, and people have gotten away with that move.
You just gambled that they wouldn't call?
It was more than a gamble. It was a leap of faith, if you will.
And I guess there are people who actually are told, like, oh, you want to be diligent? Like, check the references. And then they actually don't check the references. They take the move of, oh, check the references. Check it out for yourself. They take the move as an extra proof that I'm so confident in what I'm saying that I could actually have someone check me, and then they wouldn't do it. But actually only the, like, small portion of people who actually don't do any due diligence are the ones who get suckered in.
At some point you figured...
I figured that they didn't do it. They just didn't follow up on it.
And the rest are like, wait, I checked the reference, it didn't come out. Like, what are you talking about? I don't get it. So that just didn't take. But then a certain number of people are actually watching the video, getting fully convinced, thinking that the whole emphasis on check the references, check the facts for yourself means that it must be true. But then I don't know. It's a bit weird. So anyway, I feel bad for the people who are doing it, because I don't want to say because I don't feel like it's really that much more blameworthy than another perhaps religion that I don't think really makes much sense. Because there are plenty of them out there. Everyone who's even religious believes that every other religion doesn't quite make as much sense as theirs. So everyone's got this thing going on. So, I mean, the flat earthers are a new one. I would like to call them a religion because I think that's the best explanation of what's going on here.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would say rubs me a little bit more wrong than a religion is at least some religions have the admittance of like, you leave it up to faith, whereas a lot of the flat earthers, present themselves as real question askers, critical thinkers, wanting to challenge and press for evidence, and that's really not the truth. I don't feel that. Just for the sake of, in this documentary, you see at least 2 pretty solid experiments, both conducted by flat earthers themselves, and they end up being frauds and or like faulty. And faulty is just code for actually proved the curvature of the earth. And so that's one of the things that's kind of annoying, and just the audacity of the scientific history and the people who, the intellectual giants who actually came, helped us discover gravity and theories around gravity and the circular curvature of the earth, and astronauts and the entire space program, and just the idea that all of them are liars or wrong or part of some conspiracy, and the flat earthers are really the ones who are pushing us through to truth. It's just a little bit... It always annoys me when you combine like arrogance with ignorance. Like they're both ignorant and they're arrogant about it, and that kind of always pisses me off.
Yeah, and I mean all those things, as you're running off those things, I think it's totally legitimate to question any one of them. Question what I'm saying. Yeah, any one of what you're saying. You want to question whether or not Buzz Aldrin went to the moon? You can question it.
Totally question it, but that means you have to also you have to think through reasonably the different things.
The complexity
just
of
questioning with no critical thinking isn't like, I will question the moon landing. Like, I'm totally, you want to make some great document, like, I fucking watched this. Yeah. I've watched flat earth stuff. I've engaged with this, and if there was one smidgen of thing that was actually engaging and felt credible, I'd be kind of fascinated by that.
Yeah,
but there just really isn't. That's the problem.
Yeah, it would be lovely to find something really compelling.
I'd be a flat earther in fucking 2 seconds if there was something worth sinking my teeth into.
Yeah, or at least be flat earth curious.
flat curious. Yeah, I would totally be. Like, that's the thing. I'm not... I would love something that was like, wait, what? That's like, makes you scratch your head and be like, didn't find anything, but there just isn't. That I've seen so far. There are conspiracies that are more interesting that I think could be more truthful. I don't think conspiracies are inherently not credible.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
conspiracies exist. Conspiracies exist, but knowing that conspiracies exist, you also have to realize, like, okay, logistically, the more people involved in a conspiracy, potential conspiracy, the harder it would be to pull off. So the idea that that's what makes flat Earth almost the most difficult, because it would involve everybody.
Well, also, have you the thing that's it's so boring, because you start going like, I guess they're doing an expedition to the edge of the earth. Like, that's awesome. Once you fucking raise the funds, which hopefully there's enough competence among the however many thousands of them there are, they can get a fucking mission to the side of the earth. And you know what? I'll be impressed if they even make it toward the border and get shot by the apparent government agencies that are patrolling this ice border around the flat earth. Just get shot by someone who's guarding the border, and I'd be pretty surprised if they even even found
you would make a real curious person out of me.
Yeah, if you started going toward the border, because what they say is like, why can't you go to the edge of the earth?
Even if it wasn't flat, you might have found out some sort of secret military skirmishes.
That'd be fucking a great conspiracy right there.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that they so casually go, okay, the earth is flat. Why don't we fucking go to the edge?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. Governments totally won't let you do it and whatever. And I would be even interested if they got intercepted by some elite government
The
problem
is that it's what makes it hard to take it too seriously, because you're just like, it's a lot easier than that to find out that the earth is not flat. You know, it's just a lot easier than that. And the idea that you must do that to find out that it is not flat. I mean, you could just take those flights for yourself. I bet each one of those Southern Hemisphere flights costs probably very expensive flights, probably like $3,000 a piece. I mean, direct from super far cities like in the Southern Hemisphere, probably not very frequent flights. You can just take all 4 of them. Ring the earth on the Southern Hemisphere, see if you go north. See what's out the window, you know? See if they gas you, put you in virtual reality or whatever else you might think's happening. But, you could just do it for yourself, It's not, you don't even have to go around the edge of the earth. There are ways to disprove, there are such easy ways to disprove your own theories here. Or at least you have to fully bake it and go, okay, what could I falsify? And it's just, that's the thing. Like, there is a bit of faith going on here. It's pretty obvious.
Oh, well,
they're not admitting it, but it's the same. Like some religions can say that they're very scientific. Some things that they're doing, they can say, we totally believe in science. I mean, life begins at conception. It's like, except for birth. That was a thing, but...
Well, it's funny you say this as a religion because it's not... He's shown... There's kind of a leader guy, I forget what his name is, really skinny, tall guy who's shown in this documentary, but he's interviewed in Logan Paul's, Flat Earth mockumentary, and he gets him in the room and he starts asking about Flat Earth, and lo and behold, he is a creationist. He's like a Christian creationist, and God created the, dome that we're in.
I personally believe that, yes, the Creator is looking right down on us. The sun, moon, and stars were placed in the firmament. And again, what it says, biblically speaking, they're just lights, dude. They're light.
Interesting.
It does. So when you ask the follow-up questions of, it quickly does get to God created the earth, and it's a creationist. He's a creationist.
All of a sudden, you start looking into the fact that maybe everything in the sky was put in place for us. There's value. Maybe there's something out there that's actually watching over top of us.
I want to see that documentary. I want to see that documentary where the conspiracy is that the creationists got together. They got together and they said, wait a second, we're losing here. But people online, they love themselves a conspiracy. Let's get some of that juice, okay? Let's get together and go, okay, wait. We already believe against evidence that the earth is only 6,000 years old and that all the skeletons are fakes, or that whatever. That we believe that carbon dating not a thing. We believe that the mountains were created by God and not tectonic plate movements. We believe all this stuff. And so maybe there still is flat. Maybe 450 years they got it wrong, or maybe not, whatever. But let's get people to believe in God and creationism again. And you get them in that. You can get them. So maybe it's just a recruiting tool. Maybe that's the conspiracy right there.
Flat Earth is your way in.
Flat Earth is your fucking creationist conspiracy.
Is where it leads
I want to hear. That's very curious, actually, as a point. I wonder if anyone gets the whole flat Earth thing. You go to the flat Earth convention, someone's like, you ever heard what they said about the dinosaur bones? Shit ain't real. It's not real. Or did you know that Jesus rode the dinosaur? I don't know what they say, honestly, but we've seen
either option.
Yeah, either option is a good one. But yeah, maybe it's your fucking your flat Earth is your first circle of the Illuminati of creationism, and then once you get into flat Earth, then they offer you the option to get in the second level of the Illuminati of flat Earthism, and so then you're now it's well, God, the heavenly energies. Did we tell you about the heavenly energies yet? Oh, that is a good
Just
one.
give 'em
I
a
think
short
you, I
dose
think
heavenly.
I think you put that together. I think that's pretty revealing. That's the conspiracy. Will some flat earther please go out and investigate
Yes.
that and see if anyone before they were a flat earther, how many of them were creationists and decided maybe that flat earth was a good recruiting tool? I would like to see if, and maybe flat earth is anyway.
That's it.
That is
That would be interesting.
because that is it's possible. It's possible. See, we like conspiracies.
I would
we
love someone to
definitely love
investigate
conspiracies. So I'm not saying I'm not one of you. I like conspiracies. I just didn't find the flat Earth credible. Okay. Do you want to get to worth watching?
Sure.
Hey everyone, welcome to Dirk Island. This is the segment Worth Watching. We're talking here about the Flat Earth documentary called Behind the Curve on Netflix. It's about the kind of the community. What is Flat Earth about? It was pretty interesting, actually. We had a good discussion about it, and so now we're on to the review. What do you think, Alec? Was it worth watching? A conclusion here?
I'm going to give it a solid 6. Here's why. Okay, so on one level, I feel like, and I feel like sometimes we don't describe this. This isn't just a straight out of 10. 9 and 10 is really go out of your way to watch. 8 is like even if you're not into documentaries, 8 is really like almost a 10 out of 10 for good documentaries for doc fans. I'm giving this a 6 because actually for being curious with what the fuck is going on with this whole resurgence of flat earthers, it was a pretty good little dive into it. Gives you both the perspective of flat earthers and of physicists who are kind of combating it and making it look more ridiculous. And it was relatively fair-handed. So I thought it was a good execution for what it was. But in the larger scheme of things, unless you're like one of us who already likes, conspiracy theories and YouTube shit, you really could probably just not even think about this entire section of humanity and not lose anything. You could almost ignore the whole thing. But
Pure entertainment.
Pure entertainment. If you're into it, though, it's like, maybe worth it.
Okay, yeah, I would agree on the 6. It's maybe worth watching. I think actually it was very enjoyable for us to watch because it was like a guilty pleasure. Documentaries for us are not only for entertainment and for learning and for potentially paradigm shifting and helping you like learn more about history and the world and everything else, but also just pure entertainment. This is more in the pure entertainment category. It's possible, I guess, that someone could watch something like this or some YouTube video on Flat Earth and actually feel like they're being educated. Here, I was just being educated as to some of the what's really going on here in this Flat Earth thing, and I think that we were laughing. We had a good time watching this. I think the person who made it was good. There were some great interviews in it. I think that even the main characters of the Flat Earth community were profiled. Mark Sargent, that other woman who some of the crazy stuff like, a little bit about online hate, which it was interesting. We didn't talk about this before, but the woman who co-hosts the podcast with Mark Sargent, and people call her a honey trap or something, right? Like this attractive woman who's trying to lure people into the wrong side of flat Earth. And then people were calling her a transvestite on thing and just saying she's a shill, saying he's a shill. Unfortunately, people are very hard on each other online. It's tough because these people, they're like trying to be inclusive and like talk about flat Earth, something that's very exciting to them. And people are going at them, hating them, and it's not worth it. They seem like they're kind of normal people who seem relatively nice seeming even, and kind of an interesting profile to watch. I don't feel any ill will towards any of the people in the movie. I think that they all kind of are just part of this strange new movement where I don't really think they're kind of connected and tethered to kind of the investigation that they claim they're tethered to. It's more like a religion, as kind of we've said before. It's more like a religion, a new religion that's being formed where people, they say they're committed to like investigating the truth, but they're really not that convincible and they believe some things that are pretty easy to falsify, like about plane routes that you could just look up and find a flight from Santiago, Chile to Melbourne, Australia, right across the southern hemisphere, and that's very findable. And for some reason, Mark Sargent can say that those don't exist, and people aren't questioning him on that. So it's a little bit weird. It was kind of fascinating, disturbing. And also I think that just to go around too and be like, oh, can you believe that people are so stupid to believe flat earth? It's like, it's just another thing that people believe that they don't actually like look into the evidence against very critically. But there's so many things like that. We see that all the time. So I really don't feel good about being like, can you believe how stupid people are for believing flat earth? It's like, they're not. They're just another group of people who believe a few things that are like, they kind of like have a club. It's a bit of like a community going on. And yeah, they're wrong. They're wrong. You look into it, it's pretty obvious that they're wrong, but like plenty of people are wrong about so many things that they believe. And it's a bit more like a religion. Like they're not looking to you to question whether or not fossil record backs up what they're talking about, or whether or not someone can get resurrected, or whether or not their beliefs about the afterlife or talking to ghosts is real. They're not, or whether or not rhino horns help with vitality. There are a lot of people who believe a lot of things that are very obviously not backed by evidence. I think it's all over the place. I don't think flat earth's the dumbest people on earth. I don't think they necessarily have any sort of ill will. Certainly a real thing, which is proven to me through this. I wasn't sure if it was actually a real movement before watching this. And I'm glad to the director or whoever decided to make this for making it, because I did enjoy it. I just want to say that. I did enjoy actually watching it. So thanks for the people who made it and for the people who have participated, because I did enjoy learning more about this.
Me too.
Okay, so thanks very much for watching. If you want to keep up with us here on YouTube, please subscribe, and also you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts if you want to listen to the audio podcast. Thanks very much for watching.
Thanks.